11. As coronavirus cases surge, Oregon's governor issues tough new restrictions.
I am not asking you, I am telling you.
As bars and restaurants face the reality of another lockdown, at least one is taking drastic measures to keep afloat.
I'm nervous. I'm downright absolutely nervous.
Plus, we hear from healthcare workers on the front lines and their fears as hospitalizations rise.
And even sometimes beds that we have that may be open, we don't have the staff to care for patients that may be in those beds.
KGW News at 11 starts right now. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Brittany Falkers. For the third straight day, Oregon reported more than 1,000 new cases of COVID-19. To slow the spread of the virus, Governor Brown has ordered new restrictions to go into effect this Wednesday. They'll last for at least 2 weeks for the entire state and a month for Multnomah County. Social gatherings will be limited to 6 people from no more than 2 households. Restaurants have to go takeout only. Several other businesses like gyms have to close. Grocery stores and other retailers have to limit capacity. Churches must limit attendance. Businesses need to mandate working from home as much as possible. And indoor visits at long-term care facilities will no longer be allowed. Of course, a big concern with a surge in cases is how our hospitals are going to keep up. This graph shows the number of current hospitalizations due to COVID-19. According to OHA, they've risen nearly 50% in just the last week. Christelle Kumwe talked to frontline emergency room workers, seeing the spike firsthand.
I've been telling friends and family that it's real. You see the numbers going up in the news, but we're seeing a definite increase in cases in the hospital.
Matt Hansen is an emergency physician at OHSU. He says they are seeing the surge with patients of all ages coming in, some with mild symptoms, some very sick.
But we are running at very high capacity, close to 100%. We're having trouble both with the number of beds, but even trying to expand our surge capacity. And even sometimes beds that we have that may be open, we don't have the staff to care for patients that may be in those beds. So it's definitely a problem.
It takes a team to run ERs, and now there's a shortage of nurses in the region. That, paired with rising case numbers, is concerning for Dr. Hansen.
Someone could come in with a heart attack or a stroke or COVID and not be able to access an intensive care unit quickly or receive the specialty care that they need because we are full. And that's one of my biggest fears, is that we will have to make very difficult decisions about who gets the best quality care.
He says they are very close to making some of those difficult decisions.
One of the fears that I have also is that if we as healthcare workforce members become exposed to someone with the virus, we would have to quarantine for 2 weeks, which puts us out of the workforce for an extended period of time, in a time when we're really needed.
The risk now is social interactions and large group gatherings. He believes the freeze is the right move to keep the spread under control.
Well, me personally, I'm trying to stay at home as much as I can. We've shut down our learning pod that we had for our children with their online schooling. We're trying to limit our outside interactions as much as possible. We're wearing masks anytime we're outside the house where we could come in contact with other people.
He does feel Oregonians will do the right thing and follow the restrictions. He does echo colleague Dr. Chu's concerns, who made an emotional plea Friday at the state's press briefing.
Many of you cheered and rang bells and put up signs calling us heroes. And we're so grateful for that. Right now, we're asking you to be our heroes.
I think there's a great spirit of collaboration and care for one another in our state, and I think people will pull together and make it happen.
Christelle Kumwe, KGW News.
Now, the already struggling restaurant industry will definitely feel the sting of this 2-week freeze. Many had spent lots of money on outdoor seating areas so they could stay open. And now they'll have to resort to takeout only again. And with that comes a renewed push to allow them to sell cocktails to go. Here's Art Edwards.
Restaurants and bars are trying to hang on in the face of the pandemic. The latest blow is the 2-week freeze that keeps them from having customers eat and drink in their establishments.
We just can't handle the uncertainty and just stand by.
So the owners of the Botanist House, a restaurant in the Pearl District, have decided to take a stand. On the day before Thanksgiving, they'll begin a civil disobedience protest of Oregon's Constitution and start selling cocktails to go. Right now, that isn't allowed in Oregon, and lawmakers would have to step in.
You know, you're asking us as a business to limp along and do hard things. We also are asking you guys to do hard things as well. Help us get it through. Or, I don't care. Kate Brown, give me an executive order that's not legal. Who in this state is going to challenge that executive order?
There is support from the restaurant industry for Oregon to allow cocktails to go, and there's a change.org petition that is gaining momentum. It urges the state legislature to make the change.
We're getting the support, but we're not getting the movement. You know, where's the hard work to put it across the finish line that says, yes, I'm going to help you as a bar do what you need to do to survive?
There is also a bill introduced in Congress by Portland Congressman Earl Blumenauer that would help places like the Botanist House stay afloat. It's known as the Restaurants Act. It was introduced back in June, but it still has not come to a vote. The owners of the Botanist House say the restaurant industry is in a desperate situation, and if it fails, it's no telling how long it will take to come back. Art Edwards, KGW News.
Now, aside from Oregon's restrictions, all West Coast states are also issuing a travel advisory ahead of the holidays. Oregon, Washington, and California are asking anyone who travels out of state to quarantine for 14 days once they return home. And they're asking anyone not from the West Coast to quarantine if they travel here. As far as other restrictions go, we're expecting to hear from Washington Governor Jay Inslee tomorrow at 11 a.m. Right now, we don't know specifics on what restrictions he plans to put in place. Serial sex offender Jared Walter was arrested again today in Portland. Police say he tried to take a picture of a woman in a bathroom stall at the Lloyd Center. Walter has a history of criminal sex offenses. He's been arrested multiple times for lewd acts on TriMet trains and buses. And earlier this year, a few months after being released from jail, he was charged after a woman said he inappropriately touched her at Legacy Emanuel Hospital. Walter is being held at the Multnomah County Detention Center. And turning now to the presidential election. Today, thousands took to the streets of Washington, D.C. and cities around the country, including Salem and Eugene, to protest the results. President-elect Joe Biden is moving forward with his transition plans. He solidified his lead yesterday with NBC News declaring him the apparent winner of Georgia, giving him a total of 306 electoral votes. Refusing to accept those results, supporters of President Trump rallied in D.C., chanting "Stop the Steal" and waving flags. They claim the election was stolen from him. There hasn't been any evidence of that. In fact, President Trump's own Department of Homeland Security called the election the most secure in American history. Now, as night fell, Trump supporters clashed with anti-Trump demonstrators. D.C. police say one person was stabbed and officers made at least 10 arrests. Our Verify team has been researching claims surrounding the election, including claims of voter fraud being shared at these Stop the Steal rallies. Just go to kgw.com/verify to watch. And if you have something that you want us to look into, just email verify@kgw.com. Hey, Portland, get ready for some more newlyweds in town. LGBTQ couples tie the knot tomorrow in a marriage marathon. Coming up, hear why a local couple says they won't wait to say their vows. Plus, it's week 2 of Pac-12 football. Orlando Sanchez is here with highlights from the Ducks and Beavers.
Meanwhile, the heaviest of the rain from this evening is on its way out of the Willamette Valley. Snow beginning to dissipate in the Cascades as well, but there are still several wet days in our forecast ahead. More on that coming up in just a bit.